Left-wing protesters try to shut down Matt Walsh's rally to end child mutilation. Nancy Pelosi has no regrets on passing spending packages that boosted inflation, and more companies are leaving Democrat-ran areas. All of that and more here on The Bald Brad Show. Welcome to The Bald Brad Show. It's Monday, October 24th, and as always, I couldn't be happier than kick this week off right, doing The Bald Brad Show and hanging out with all of you, my friends and true American patriots, where we come together as a community of conservatives and Republicans, go over the stories of the day, and bring all the news and information you need to know about. So if you want to join us here at The Bald Brad Show and you haven't done so, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. If you're over at Rumble, hit the plus and give us a comment down below. And if you're listening on any of the podcast airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, heck, folks, you can find us and listen to us anywhere and everywhere. Leave us a lovely 5-star review. Not only would you be helping a conservative, but most importantly, you'd be supporting getting conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. So your help and support would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you hit that like button, as well as double check to make sure that bell notification icon's clicked, because 85% of you are not being notified when we upload or go live, which is Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Supernatural Saturdays, and a sprinkling of politics on Sunday. Be notified by hitting that bell icon. And with that being said, let's jump into our lead story of the day regarding the Daily Wire's Matt Walsh holding a rally to end child mutilation. This rally, folks, attracted an estimated 3,000 people on Friday at the Tennessee State Capitol, as well as a small group of foul-mouthed left-wing protesters who honestly made a pathetic attempt and unsuccessful attempts to shut down the event. The large crowd was solidly with Walsh's cause, thank God, to end medical transgender treatments for children and easily drowned out the protesters. We got clips galore here for y'all today. As always, again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on the Bald Brad channel. This first video clip just shows how outrageous these protesters are, and honestly, how kind of cuckoo they are as well. I think the video will speak for itself. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Kill me or shut the fuck up. If you hate me, then kill me or shut the fuck up. If you hate me, then kill me. What the animal, man? What the fuck are you doing? Kill me and shut the fuck up.
Completely sane people, folks. These are people you can bring over to your parents, have a nice dinner, and just a friendly conversation with. Obviously, I'm joking. These people are nuts, folks. You would think, again, that people would be behind all of this, that everybody think that child mutilation is bad. But for some reason, the Democrat Party wants to get in bed with the progressive left on this idea and push this agenda of which the vast majority of Americans are not behind. That parents are not for this. Parents want to know what's going on with their children, but they want to put Planned Parenthood on these high school campuses that are going to refer these children out to other institutions that are going to help them along their gender transition without parental knowledge, which is crazy. And the White House is all for this. If you recall, we literally showed a pamphlet from the White House many months ago that showed them that they're all for this gender transition, this gender affirming care that's going to help them children get mutilated in terms of removing their breasts and their genitalia, give them hormone enhancers, puberty blockers, the whole shebang. The White House is for. So I don't know why the Democrat Party thinks this is a winning issue. It's wrong. It's weird. It's gross. And again, a lot of Americans aren't for it. Now, something that we can actually agree upon with these protesters, I know, folks, I'm just as shocked as you are. Radicals held up signs that read, quote, "Nazi lives don't matter." I agree with you. All on board for that. Nazi lives don't matter whatsoever. And another one said, "Fascists, F off." I don't like fascists either. But here's the thing. What they believe in is anybody that disagrees with them is a Nazi and fascist. That's where we don't agree. Just because I disagree with somebody doesn't make them automatically a fascist. Just because I disagree with somebody doesn't make them a racist, a Nazi, or anything that the progressive left continually calls Republicans and conservatives, but that's how their mind works. Again, they're a little cuckoo in the head. At one point, protesters surrounded some of Walsh protesters in the crowd, supporters in the crowd, and chanted over a megaphone, "F around, and you're going to find out." It makes me wonder if that person that said that on a megaphone kind of attributes themselves with Antifa, because that's what Antifa does a lot, is it kind of incites violence. And if you recall, the Democrat Party Joy Behar, Joe Biden thinks it's just all an ideology, that they don't actually exist, even though we know that there's groups of them. They've actually been interviewed by the media saying that they are in fact a group. We've seen them with our own eyes, but again, it's a common theme here with the progressive left. They don't deal with reality. They just think everything's make-believe. It's not real. It doesn't exist. But in fact, it does. Makes me wonder if that is Antifa right there wanting to incite violence upon conservatives, Republicans, as well as journalists. One unnamed protester claimed to have taken hormone blockers and attempted to tell attendees that the treatment is life-saving and completely reversible, which isn't always the case if children change their mind. The protester argued that puberty is traumatic for some children, so gender-affirming treatment is necessary for minors. I mean, folks, wrap your head around that, but we have a clip here of this protesters talking as much. Let's go ahead and roll it.
I've gone through the hormone treatment. I know what it takes. Wow. You know why? Because that's how I am. And I just want to be left, we all just want to be left alone.
So happy about it.
Yeah, I am. I'm much happier. I'm much happier about having gone through it. And it saves the lives of the kids who actually do go through with the hormone treatment. And you know, they don't actually, what actually happens is they get, what actually ends up happening is when they're that young, usually it'll end up being just hormone blockers, which are completely reversible. Completely reversible if they decide that's not what they want. But the thing is that actually going through puberty is so traumatic for some of these kids. It made me so detached from my body. And I can't undo that. I can't undo that. I can't undo the puberty that my body went through naturally. But you can stop taking the hormone blockers if you want to. It's okay to do that. And these kids that actually, the vast majority, yes it is. No, it is absolutely true.
That's incorrect.
That is incorrect.
That's incorrect.
That is absolutely incorrect.
Somebody who's been through it actually knows this. Yeah, that person looks very healthy.
No, I have gone through it. I have gone through it. Fuck off.
I'm sorry, it's true.
Fuck off.
Oh my God. It's very true. You guys want to say that it's reversible? It doesn't look.
Then put that down. Then put that down. Then put that down. No, you do not. You don't actually have to.
That was pretty savage of me.
So that's Savannah Hernandez of Sav Says. If you haven't seen her channel, go over and give her a like and subscribe. We've talked about her a lot on the Bald Brad Show. I believe she's an ambassador for Turning Point USA now. But just calling out that person for sadly the way they look, which I'm not all for, but I do think it kind of makes her point in terms of it's not reversible, even though that's what this person was pushing. And it's odd to me. It's odd to me that people are out there that are all for this stuff. And some of the event speakers that were there was U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn, which we've talked about here on the Bald Brad Show, Robbie and Landon Starbuck, Scott Nugent, and former U.S. Representative Tulsi Gabbard. If you recall, she just denounced her affiliation with the Democrat Party. Far-left protesters attempted to drown out the speech throughout Matt Walsh's talking points, and also went after a person named Chloe Cole, who is, quote, a detransitioner, and they repeatedly were calling her a fascist. Cole discussed her emotional journey of being born a girl, but deciding to transition and undergo a double mastectomy at 18 years old, then ultimately detransitioning. Cole now dedicates her time to speaking out against irreversible gender mutilating hormone therapies and surgeries on minors. Some leftists didn't like that very much. So here's a quote. Cole is a fascist and doesn't care about other trans youth, one leftist told the Daily Wire. She's using her own experiences to blank on thousands of others that want to kill themselves because people like this won't let them. And kind of the underlying issue is there's more going on with the psychological aspect. And if people want to kill themselves, one, call a suicide hotline. Nobody wants you to do that. That's a terrible thing, regardless of political affiliation. A lot of Americans do not want you to do something like that to yourself, including your own family. There's people that love you. So again, call a suicide hotline if you're having those types of thoughts, please, for the love of God. But just to make that claim of, well, they're going to kill themselves if they don't get this gender affirming care, just shows you the underlying issue of what's really going on. It's more of a mental issue that's happening, and they need to seek psychological help for that. But the problem is that some of these psychologists are helping them along and affirming who they are mentally rather than what they are biologically, and are going to guide them along that transition. That's another underlying issue. Well, Matt Walsh took the stage and kind of called out these protesters, of which we have a clip here for. Let's go see the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Walsh here.
These people here, they don't want you to hear what we have to say because they're cowards. They can't engage in the argument. All they could try to do is shut us down and silence us, but it's not going to work. We're still here. We're not going anywhere. We're still here. So what is the cause that we are here for? It's very simple. We are here to fulfill one of our most fundamental obligations as Americans, as adults, as human beings, and that is to protect our children. That is why we're here.
You would think, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but you would think this would be something that everybody can agree with. But for some reason, the Democrat Party is slowly not agreeing with it, which is why you had the de-affiliation with Tulsi Gabbard. You have not just her, but there's a lot of other people that are being red-pilled through this going, this is maybe a little bit crazy. Maybe I don't believe in the Democrat Party's platform as much as I thought I did because they're slowly moving further left, which is always funny because they always say that it's the Republicans and conservatives that are moving further right. The Democrat Party has gone so far left. You can even go back to Bill Clinton's time and be like, what the hell happened to the party? So that party is going freaking off the freaking reservation. Moving into our second story of the day, you got Pelosi here. We got clips here of Pelosi, you guys. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi expressed no regret, of course not, during an interview Sunday morning about passing legislation that many experts have basically charged, not even just charged, turbocharged inflation, talking about the stimulus checks that were passed out like hotcakes during COVID-19. No regret, what you expect from the Democrat Party. And by the way, folks, if you haven't hit that like and subscribe button already, make sure you click it. It does help support the channel. Pelosi made her remarks on CBS News Face the Nation with host Margaret Brennan when she was confronted with the reality that Republicans could win back the House of Representatives during next month's midterm elections. Now, it makes me wonder how much of that is reality, or because she's just so old and kind of losing it, kind of falling off a rocker a bit like Joe Biden, maybe she really did finally come to terms with it and just kind of woken up to the fact that they are about to lose in the midterms and get shellacked left and right because, hey, people aren't for child mutilation. They're not for gender affirming care. They're not for critical race theory being taught to their children. Not for this just gender theory indoctrinations taking place in the classroom. They're not for rising gas prices. Not for traumatic inflation. They're not for what's going on with our foreign policy. They're not for what's going on with the U.S.-Mexico border. It turns out the Democrat Party is so out of touch with the average American that they're going to get shellacked come up in a couple weeks here. Quote, it's about getting out the vote. Everything else is a conversation compared to that, she said. But in order to do that, we have to have inspiration. You can't truly run on empty. And the fact is that when I hear people talk about inflation, as I heard him there, we have to change that subject. Inflation is a global phenomenon. Like I said, we had a clip here of her saying this, and folks, sorry to subject you to this, but we got to roll it.
And the fact is that when I hear people talk about inflation, as I heard him there, we have to change that subject. Inflation is a global phenomenon. Yes. The EU, the European Union, the UK, the British have higher inflation rate than we do here. It's not, the fight is not about inflation. It's about the cost of living.
She's just completely out of touch. And there, again, it's continually pointing the finger at everybody else. Well, look at their inflation. They're not as bad as us. It's not as bad. How the hell does that solve the issue? How does that help any American out there going, well, hey, it's not so bad that you can't feed your family because the Europeans are struggling too. Oh, goody. That just makes everybody feel better. She is so out of touch. She is so freaking out of touch. I don't know if she was focusing so much on what the person was actually saying compared to actually making her dentures not fall out of her face. Quote, it's not the fight. It's not about inflation. It is about inflation. Quote, it's about the cost of living, which again is why they keep increasing the minimum wage. They want to increase the federal minimum wage. You got the state of California in some fast food worker restaurants going to increase it from, what is it, $15 an hour now to $22 starting January 1st, which is just mind blowing. Guys, somebody's going to flip a burger or scoop food from a already cooked food onto a styrofoam plate and get paid $22 an hour. Let that one sink in. But again, it just highlights the fact they're so out of touch. It's not just her. It's literally the entire party's out of touch. Pelosi claimed that the government spending put people back to work, children back in school. I'm sorry. I struggle, you guys, when I'm hearing some Democrats talk, just try to get these out without laughing. I laugh at everything. That's my true personality. And I try my best to be serious, obviously, on the show because it does aggravate me. But at the same time, just not laugh at freaking everything that they say. And it helped take us through the stage of the pandemic. But on things like spending, those $1,400 checks, putting cash out there, I mean, didn't that end up contributing to inflation? Brennan asked. Do you think have any regrets about the bills you passed and have you structured them? What do you think Nancy Pelosi is going to say? You think she has any regrets? Of course not. Let's go ahead and roll it.
But on things like sending, those $1,400 checks, putting cash out there.
That's right.
I mean, didn't that end up contributing to inflation? Do you have any regrets about the bills you passed and how you structured them?
No, absolutely not, because that was necessary for people to survive. Our purpose
was that it was inflationary.
But the point is that when you reduce unemployment, it's inflationary. That is a fact.
You guys, I can't do it. I honestly, God, I can't do it. I mean, some of what she said is true. Don't get me wrong, but it's just the fact that she doesn't think that the $1,400 stimulus checks help increase inflation and turbocharged it, which everybody knows it did. And just the way they chauffeured out that whole thing, not everybody needed to receive checks, right? They literally given people checks that didn't need them, that weren't even close to needing them, that were never actually laid off their jobs, that were still working, that own business. I mean, just the way they did it was so asinine. But again, it's the Democrats loving big government. They think the government can solve everything, where you got the conservatives and the Republicans thinking, hey, you know what? The government sucks at everything. Maybe they shouldn't be doing that. Why don't you just open up everything, allow businesses to go back, allow employees to go back to work, put food on the table, get the economy running again, and we can figure everything out. But they didn't want to do it. They'd rather push this COVID-19 narrative out there, make sure everybody gets vaccines, be triple masked, make sure you get 50 boosters. I mean, pushing the whole false narrative that you couldn't contract the virus once you had the vaccine, that you couldn't spread it either. Turned out that was a freaking hocus pocus story, wasn't actually real. Then they switched the narrative on that one. I mean, the litany of things they got wrong with that is truly mind boggling. But as we're repeating ourselves, Democrat Party so out of touch with reality that they literally think the $1,400 checks didn't have to do with inflation. All you could do is laugh. I mean, seriously, this is who they have. And the runner-up, you guys, the runner-ups that they have here is AOC and the squad. Who are they going to chauffeur out? Nancy Pelosi, who's barely making it. The lady that freaking eats ice cream during COVID-19 with a $24,000 freezer. When asked if she would remain in leadership in the new Congress that begins in January, Pelosi refused to answer. Please don't come back, Nancy. Please, for the love of God, don't come back. But here's the question and response.
You told Andrea Mitchell earlier this week, we need generational change, but in some cases, there's no substitute for experience.
Right.
Will you remain in leadership in the new Congress?
I'm not talking about that. I'm here to talk about how we win the election.
But to deliver on all these things.
I was only paying Andrea a compliment for all the experience that she has.
I see.
But the fact is, we need to...
So you may or you may not.
I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about the future, America's working families, for the children. It's always about the children.
Oh, it's about the children, huh? The same party that wants to freaking have children mutilated by taking off their breasts, their genitals, give them hormone enhancers, puberty blockers. Yeah, you're the party that really cares about children, Nancy. All the while you have inflation going up where children can't be fed, where literally it was already bad before the Democrats were running the show and Trump was trying to fix it. But now they're going to school just to be fed, not even necessarily get an education, but just eating a hot meal because they can't go and get one at home. Yeah, you're really the party of Americans and helping people get back to work. All the while you're allowing over 2 million illegal immigrants coming through the border. We have numbers going upwards of 5 million illegal immigrants coming through the U.S.-Mexico border with about 1 million gotaways. You have upwards of 22 million illegal immigrants in the United States, the interior of the United States as of right now. But no, you're all for Americans. You want to make sure people get back to work. You're all about the children, when in reality, you're not. It's a bunch of BS, you guys. And you know what? Go out and vote this November and show them how much they got it wrong, how much they're not there to support you. You don't even have to be a Republican to see that. You could be a Democrat and independent and go, these people are out of touch. They don't have a clue. They literally look at everything around you. Read the comments down below and you'll see Democrats in there going like, oh no, he's still better than Trump. At least Trump didn't try to take over the country. At least they didn't invade January 6th. Fabulous argument. I mean, January 6th, everybody agrees with the debacle, but if you really think January 6th was an actual attempt to take over the United States government, you're an idiot. You really are actually dumb if you believe January 6th was a great attempt for people to take over the government. It worked out real well. It's so stupid. Again, and I'm not for January 6th. I think it was wrong. I think it was bad. But to say oh, well, the guy should be in jail. He shouldn't allowed to be run for president. He was terrible. Look at what Joe Biden's doing, okay? Joe Biden is trash. The guy can't even stay a week awake during an interview. He falls asleep, loses his train of thought, finds with his teleprompter, doesn't know his wife's name, doesn't know his staff's names, look for dead people in the crowd, looking for dead supporters. I mean, the whole shebang. But no, you're right, Democrats. Yeah, no, Joe Biden's doing a fabulous job and everybody sees it. Speaking of Democrats, in our last story here, their cities are running just itself into the ground. And by itself, I mean that Democrats themselves, through their policies, their initiatives, and their lack of governance, is running these cities right down into the ground. If you haven't already, as always, hit that like and subscribe button. But if you recall, just many months ago, I believe it was July, Starbucks announced that it was going to remove stores from Democrat-ran areas, of which one of them was Philadelphia. And this plays into today's news, in which Wawa is closing a lot of stores in Philadelphia. So Starbucks was closing 16 stores around the country, including one in Central City, Philadelphia, because of repeated safety issues, including drug use and other disruptive behaviors that threaten the staff. Not just the staff, you guys. How about threatening the customers, vandalizing their stores? And this is what happens when you have Starbucks, a corporation, getting in bed with the progressive left on this whole racism stuff. You know, if you recall that whole thing where people had to go in the HR and take these classes that helped them realize that, you know, maybe what they said, they had some sort of bias and they need to reverse the racism, which they never had in the first place, all sorts of stuff. So they're being vandalized by their own people. And now they realize that, oh, shoot, maybe we don't want to be here because it's costing us an arm and a leg to not just pay for these minimum wage. In some of these Democrat-ran areas, it's $15 an hour. And like I mentioned, California wants to put in $22 an hour January 1st, but also to fix all the cost of keeping the store up and running, having homeless people come into the bathrooms, of which they wanted to allow people to do, and they got in trouble for by the progressive left, to come in and shoot up heroin and cocaine in the bathroom, and also affects the children that are in the area. You got the homeless people coming in as well, sleeping in the stores. We also see that in Washington, D.C. When I lived in Washington, D.C., literally there's homeless people that slept at the basement part of the Panera Bread down there while I'm eating a hot meal, which was always lovely and fun. The coffee giant is closing 6 stores in hometown Seattle, which is primarily Democrat ran and leftist ran. 6 in Los Angeles, Democrat and progressive left ran. 2 in Portland, Democrat progressive left ran. And 1 in each Philadelphia and Washington, Democrat progressive left ran. Starbucks said employees at those stores will be given opportunity to transfer to other stores as well. And like I mentioned, it's not just Starbucks, you guys. Wawa is closing 9 Philadelphia area stores overnight due to robberies and rising in crime. Oh, isn't that just lovely? What is it with Democrat-ran cities and crime? Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, which Mayor Lori Lightfoot she's running again. She still thinks they don't have a rising crime. She was called out by a reporter the other week going, the crime's fine. Like, what's the problem? So out of touch. They are so out of touch. Wawa announced it is closing several stores overnight in suburban Philadelphia because of skyrocketing crime in the city. The gas station and convenience store chain plans to close overnight at a total of 9 stores in northeast Philadelphia and the Bucks County suburbs, the Philadelphia Inquirer reported. The stores will be closed from midnight to 5 a.m. until further notice. The decision to close the stores comes after 2 stores were robbed earlier this week, and as was Wawa, reportedly Moles pulling out of Philadelphia altogether because of the crime problem. Now, I want to say, and I'm trying to reach back in my memory, I'm pretty sure it was a Wawa that was literally, I guess, flash mobbed in a way, completely ransacked by a bunch of leftists and Democrats. And if it is conservatives and Republicans, we don't hold that damn value. We don't believe in robbery. We don't believe in increasing crime. We don't believe in defunding the police. We want more police. And again, it just shows you, if you have increase in crime, businesses are going to get the hell out. They don't want to take in the liability, the insurance, the security, the damage to their property and to their employees, okay? The mental health issue of the employees. They're not feeling safe with their employees, not feeling safe with the customers. Customers don't want to go into those institutions, which is going to hurt your profit and your numbers for that very store. So it turns out when you use a little bit of logic and reason on how the economy works as well as businesses work, you see that businesses don't want to go into high crime areas, which screws over usually the low income areas, because people don't want to go in there to pay for the security. They don't want to go in there to pay for the employees ultimately get hurt or something to happen. Then you got a lawsuit on your hands. So that's why we've always said as conservatives and Republicans with limited government that you need more policing in areas, more policing in low income, high crime areas, so that you can get businesses back in there that are going to employ the people in there and make life better, the standard of living better in those areas. But they don't want to do it. Democrats want to sit there and strong arm American citizens and keep that vote coming in, which is honestly the fault of those that live in those localities for continuing to vote Democrat, because clearly they love the crime. Because if they didn't like the crime, you'd vote red, who predominantly want to increase law enforcement in those areas to help the citizens get out of those sticky situations of which they're battling crime, homeless, drug abuse. I mean, a litany of other issues as well in terms of those localities. Talking about the budget, a lot of localities are running out of money because the Democrats just keep spiking up the spending. I mean, it's thing after thing. A company spokesperson would not list all the stores that would be affected. It's all of them due to ongoing investigations by law enforcement. What we could say is at times we may temporarily close or limit hours due to external challenges or recommendations by local authorities for the safety and security of our associates and customers. That's what I hate about some of these corporations. Just come out and say it. Just come out and say that the place is freaking ransacked full of criminals, that nobody's policing anymore because they want to defund the police. New York City is seeing about, 4,000 police officers that have left so far the force, and that they're having a massive employment issue with law enforcement there. But nobody wants to talk about that in the Democrat Party. They're handling everything. Joe Biden's doing fine. Nancy Pelosi's doing great. Lori Lightfoot's doing a fabulous job of running things. Eric Adams in New York's just killing it. He can't even handle freaking a few thousand illegal immigrants. Now he's building tent encampments for these little immigrants where they're literally getting sofas, coffee tables, rugs, plasma TVs, Xboxes, laundry services. I mean, you name it, they're getting it. That's New York for you. All the while they're having a massive increase in crime in Democrat-ran areas. Just perfect. They're just running it great. Two of the stores that will begin shutting down doors at the Northeast Philadelphia. The others are located in the Bucks County suburbs. Two of them are in Bensalem, which directly borders the city. Four are located in the town of Festerville, and one is located in nearby Holland. The closures come after two of the stores were robbed earlier this week. Monday, Wawa on the corner of Street Road and Bustleton in Festerville were robbed by an armed man around 2 a.m. Then on Tuesday morning at 3 a.m., the Holland location was robbed. Local police believe the same suspect is responsible for both robberies. But hey, you know what? Hopefully that does get this guy. But if I was Wawa, get the hell out. Why even bother? Why even bother? Come to red areas. We would love your business. We would love to take you. You're going to have a safe area because it's ran. We actually support our law enforcement. We actually support our military, but the Democrat Party doesn't. You need to go out and go to places where people want to support you and actually not ransack your area, but rather give you those dollars you deserve because people love your product. You need to go to red areas and get the hell out while you can because it's going to cost you money. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen because you knew about it. You weren't willing to increase security, and now your freaking employees are going to get hurt and you're going to be out millions of dollars. Folks, as always, support the Bald Brad Show by hitting that like and subscribe button, leaving us a comment down below on what you think about all this. Not just this segment, but all three segments, going back from Matt Walsh to Nancy Pelosi to Wawa leaving Philadelphia. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you tomorrow here on the Bald Brad Show.